Hi folks, we're here today on behalf of Say Something Dundee. Say Something Dundee is an initiative which is part of the True Cancer project, which really aims to normalise and make easier the conversations within our community around death, dying, bereavement and care. And, you know, we're here today to chat to Vivian Maguire, who's part of the university, and she'll introduce herself in a second. But just as by means of an introduction, my name's Linda Sterry and I work for Funeral Link and we're part of the steering group, and I'll introduce Michelle here as well.
Hi, I'm Michelle Donoghue. I'm a counsellor with an interest in grief and bereavement and also part of the steering group.
And Vivian, would you like to just give us a basic introduction of who you are and what your role is and what you do?
Yeah, certainly. Hello, my name's Vivian Maguire, and as Linda's already said, I am what we call the bequeathal manager at University of Dundee, and I help people, families who are interested in donating their bodies for medical research.
Great stuff. So it's such an interesting topic, and we know you came along to one of our information sessions, I think last year sometime. So we were delighted when you agreed to kind of just do a little bit of a sharing session today, which really we're aiming to kind of just bust some of the myths and really help inform people about what it means. I mean, bequeathal managers, quite a wee mouthful, but it sounds so interesting. So we're really keen for you to just share with us today a little bit about what it is, what it's all about. So firstly, could you just tell us a little bit about the service you operate there?
Okay, well, at the University of Dundee, we teach anatomy by what we call cadaveric dissection, where students dissect a body during their academic term, and to learn about structure and function of anatomy that way, rather than read it from a textbook or follow a computer program. There are 5 institutions in Scotland who do this: Dundee, Edinburgh, Glasgow, Aberdeen and St Andrews. Each have got operations that are fairly similar in nature. I would say that Glasgow and Dundee are probably the biggest operations. And of course, here in Dundee, we have we call it our unique selling point, as we have a different embalming method to most places. Actually, in most places in the UK, we use a soft fix embalming technique called Thiel, Thiel, which leaves cadavers quite lifelike. So it's very good for students to see, because a lot of the structures stay the same as they would rather than in a formalin embalmed body. And of course, for surgeons, it's really like operating on a live person.
Wow.
For want of a better word.
Already I'm fascinated. It's like all this detail.
It's actually quite popular. I'm always, I'm always surprised when people say, "Oh, I didn't know anything about this," because we have got no shortage of donors. I mean, we have people signing up every week. We must send out at least 200 to 300 forms a year. Of course, not all of them will come back, but yeah, it's I think it's something that's word of mouth. It's not really something you can advertise on Tesco's pin board or something like that. You know, it's really done word of mouth, or by organisations like this. You know, who have had a thought about what they want their death to be, or and then sometimes it runs in families. You know, because we've had whole generations of family, grandmothers, mothers, granddaughters. Donate.
It's amazing. So if I'm sitting watching this and I want to donate, how would I go about that? What is the process? I mean, I can't just my family, I'm assuming my family can't just decide after I die. Do you have to sign up in advance? How does it work?
Yes. The whole system is predicated on consent of the donor. It's something that has to be completed while a person is still living. It can't be done by a third party. It can't be done by power of attorney, which a lot of people think it can. It has to be done by the person themselves. The law was changed in 2006. Before then, it was entirely possible for your family to donate at the time of your death. You didn't have to have given your permission. You could have said all your life that you didn't want to do it, but at your death, it was up to your family. But because of, I don't know if you were aware of, you know, the Bristol and Alder Hay scandals at the time years ago, where tissue, it wasn't donated bodies, but at the time tissue had been retained that people weren't aware of. So the law was changed after that for body donation and tissue donation, where the consent had to be given by the person for bodies or tissue to be retained. So it's just a case of contacting us. I mean, the first body donation, Dundee, the first hit you will get will be us. So, and there'll be a bit on there, there'll be our contact details. So if you just let us know that that's what you want to do, we'll send out the necessary forms. They're quite simple, straightforward forms. We just ask people to fill in the form, send it back to us, and that's them on the register until the unfortunate event, as it were.
And I guess, you know, sorry, I was going to speak there. I wasn't sure. Do you want to go, Michelle?
No, I was just thinking, like, then if someone has passed away, does that come up in their NHS file? You know, if someone doesn't have family that know that they want to do
that's actually a very interesting point, because it's something we did approach. We're governed by the Scottish Government. We have a Director of Anatomy who oversees the entire operation in Scotland. And we do have regular meetings twice a year where all the institutions get together just to discuss best practice. And that's something that has been raised, if it can be connected, like organ donation. You know, unfortunately, there's not a way to attach it to your CAI number or anything like that. So we are reliant on families getting in touch, you know, if a donor dies. And it's one of the first things I say to people, you know, just let everyone know that's going to be involved, that, you know, in your affairs at the time of your death, let everyone know that this is what you want to do, because we will rely on another.
And that aligns so.
Yeah, you could appoint an executor. It doesn't have to be your family. You can appoint an executor if you don't have any family. So, but obviously, if we don't know a person's died, then we can't take it forward. So
absolutely,
I just say shout it from the rooftops. Tell
that
anybody.
aligns, that aligns so much with the work that we are doing here. It's really about having these conversations and just expressing your wishes or what you really wouldn't want. You know, if it's equally as important, I guess, you know, I really wouldn't want that, and here's the reasons why. But you know, if it's something that you are interested in, it's even more important for people to know that, so that they know. I mean, we know, I know through the work I do with Funeral Link just how, you know, traumatic it is for people when someone dies, and you know that you often don't feel like you're thinking straight, but if you know that there's a plan in place, you know, that's, I guess, makes it a little bit easier for families sometimes.
And it is, I mean, it is quite a simple procedure. I mean, even take, for example, this morning, we got a call this morning that someone has died, and we always make sure that, you know, everything's all right with the family. I mean, if the family are against it, there is no way that we will overrule, you know, a family's wishes. It may have been the donor's wishes, but if the family have a really, really strong objection, we wouldn't take it forward. You know, so. But again, it's again just a simple procedure. It can be done depending on the information. We take lots of information on, obviously, cause of death. We need to know what a person has died of, and then just taking other things into account, height and weight. I might go into that a bit later, and just general, you know.
If someone has health conditions and stuff, do you still, because I think that's sometimes like, oh no, I've got too much wrong with me, you know, they might not want.
No, not at all. I mean, sometimes if a person's got a very, very widespread cancer that's really affecting all the organs, then sometimes that's not, you know, it's not going to be any good for anatomical purposes, put it that way. But you know, most conditions we'll take. Sepsis is quite one for us, because it affects the embalming process rather. And if a person is too large, BMI is a bit of a problem. If a person is too large, even for manual handling purposes, And obviously, Linda, you had the tour, you saw the way we
I
embalm
did.
it.
Yeah.
We have tanks that are a certain size, and if a person's too big, they literally just don't fit in the tank. And
Yeah.
conversely, if a person's really too thin, quite skeletal, their skin's quite fragile, again, it's not something that is suitable for anatomical examination. So
Sure.
on these cases we decline. But there's very few cases. And of course, well, at the moment, if a person is COVID positive when they die, that's also
Okay.
it's also a condition that we will, if they've had it before, I mean, if they've tested positive before and they've been clear for the past, say, 4 months, it's not a problem. But if they are positive at the time of death, then unfortunately we do have decline just now.
Sure. Gosh, there's so many things I could ask you, Viv. There's just so many things that are flying around my head. I was trying to keep this concise and brief. So I'm trying to think, are there any costs involved to families, when this happens?
Not at Dundee. Other places, if they have a certain radius of area, and if a person falls out with that radius, they will charge for transport. In Dundee at present, I mean, that might not stay the same, but in Dundee, as soon as we accept a body, we take care of all the costs. That includes transport of the person to Dundee from wherever they may be, and also the eventual cremation process. It's all paid for by the university.
And I'm thinking, obviously with my Funeral Link hat on, I'm thinking about the families and that we often help to support funerals. I mean, do you have experience, or can you share a little bit of your experience of what families sometimes do for a funeral? Because how long is it before the cremation takes place afterwards? And give me a sense of what might be possible at that, in between.
Yeah, that's sometimes the issue that's difficult for families, because in Scottish law we can keep bodies for up to 3 years. And because we do so much, and we always think that, well, if a person's been kind enough to donate the body, it's beholden to us to make as best use of that person as we possibly can, and we do. So we're finding that nowadays we are keeping bodies probably up to the 3 year, up to the 3 limit, and that time frame is obviously difficult for families. I do hate to use that American term closure, but they don't feel they're going to get closure.
There's a lot of ritual around death, and many people certainly,
we do advise people, at the time, most people would maybe have a memorial service for the person, they could still have that. They'll do there's no body. We have a lovely chaplain at the University of Dundee, Fiona Douglas, who always said to me, if families are struggling at the time, and they want something, she would tailor a service for them at the time. And she's done that a couple of times for families. Other families, they're quite willing to wait the 3 years, and then so at the end, as I said, we arrange the cremation. No one attends the cremation except our funeral directors and the crematorium staff. So no families are invited to the cremation. Even we're not invited to the cremation. But afterwards, families can elect to have the ashes returned to them for private interment if that's what they want, or if they had a plan to scatter them somewhere. And then we invite them. We have an annual service, funeral service for anatomy donors who've been cremated within a certain time period. So, that could be the relatives of up to 40 families. So, and we arrange a service in the morning and a service in the afternoon, and families can choose which one they want to, come from, which that kind of closes the the operation for families. But it's really quite an uplifting event, because quite often folk attend the funeral service and you can see them coming, and they're obviously very nervous and don't know what to expect, but at the end of it there's always just a collective sigh at the end of it, because I've lost count of how many families, family members that have come to me and said, I didn't quite get it at the time, I only went along with it because that was their, that was my dad's or my mum's wishes. I just went along with it, but I get it now. I really get it now, because things are explained to them during the service. We have talks from students who have worked on cadavers.
Amazing.
And what it's meant to them, what it's meant to their education. And at the end of it, most people are very, very, I hate to use the word satisfied, I'm trying to struggle for the right word
I
here.
guess it's acceptance, isn't it?
Put it peace, put it that way.
Yeah.
They leave with a bit of peace, and they're quite frankly, proud of what their relative has done, and so they should be, because if it wasn't for the generosity of people who did this, we wouldn't be able to do what we do, and some of the stuff we do is quite groundbreaking.
Yeah. So does the work that happens within the organisation, do you contribute to broader research within what you're doing? I mean, I'm just thinking about, if someone that I knew donated, what I guess could be the impact in broader society with that?
Well, as I said, the main amount of bodies will go for teaching, and will go up, and they will be dedicated to teaching. Now, we teach medical students, dental students, science students, postgraduate students who come here from all over the world specifically to work on Thiel cadavers, because they just don't have that facility in their own country. And then on the other side, as I said, because the Thiel cadavers are so lifelike, surgeons think they are wonderful. So we'll do surgical training courses in conjunction with Nine Wells for things like operations, hip replacement operations, knee replacement operations. We always say, you name it, if it can be done on a live body, it can be done on a Thiel cadaver.
Yeah.
So,
and those sort of things have all become normalised in recent years. And I mean, I guess a lot of that is down to the gratitude of many of these families who have been kind enough to donate.
Yeah, so I mean, there could be things that are discovered then, obviously practices that work a lot better. There's novel practices to be done. We also work with medical device companies who are, testing out, new devices that obviously can't be used on a live human, but they can be on Thiel cadavers. So I mean, pushing the boundaries of of that, and of research, of people who actually just do research on various parts of the body. So I mean, when someone does donate their cadaver, their body rather, it is used to its fullest potential, because as I said, if they were as generous enough to do that, then it's up to us to make sure that we get the best out of that body.
Goodness, is there anything else you were going to ask, Michelle, before we round up?
Just really, how does it impact on you? I can't imagine, well, do you know what keeps coming to mind? Did you ever watch that show 6 Feet Under? And and it was about funeral directors, and there was embalming, and that's what I keep thinking back to.
Sometimes people have said that to me. Is it not depressing? It is honestly far from depressing, because this is something these people have signed up to. So it's not something that we are imposing ourselves on a person. It's something that someone has got a long-held wish to do. So you're letting someone fulfill their wish.
Your wishes.
Conversations I have with families are lovely, because usually if they'd send the form back, they're just a name, not just a name. So that sounds a bit disrespectful, but you know what I mean. It's just a name on a form. But then when you're talking to families, you hear about their life, what they did for a living, family life, what they did, hear all the stories about them. So it's actually quite life affirming. It's not depressing in the slightest. And some of the funniest conversations I have, people who have pragmatically thought about their death. I had one lady who phoned up and said, I want to donate my body because I feel it's too good to burn.
I love that. That's brilliant.
I'm with you, sister.
Yeah, me too.
But no, just lovely conversations with people, and like that, folk that'll phone up and say, well, I'm 95, you won't want me. And I said, well, ironically, if you've lived till 95, you're doing something right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, we have.
Sounds like a real privilege, I think.
Yes, I mean, I must have. I do love my job. I really do. I do love it. I love helping people. I love the conversation. Some of them can be very, very difficult, and it's sometimes conversations are not nice. But most of the time, they are very life affirming.
So.
Goodness
Wow.
me. So we can certainly add the contact details that you talked about,
Yes.
and maybe even a copy, a link to the forum that you're speaking about. We can maybe add that.
We send the forms out.
You send the form out.
Yeah, we send the forms out by post, mainly because they're on a more robust type of paper. Because
of course,
hopefully we have to keep them for a long, long time.
Yes. Yeah, I never thought of that. So if we can certainly add your contact details to the post when we put this up. But
speak to anyone.
Is there anything else you would like to share with people before we finish up? Is there anything we've not covered?
Actually, I did say there about the age. There is no upper age limit for a person, and in Scotland, it's actually 12 is considered the age of consent. Not that we have ever accepted a person of that age before. And I don't think we would either. But legally in Scotland, consent is for organ donation and for body donation is 12 years old in Scotland.
Goodness me. No, it's a fascinating subject, Vivian, and I hope folks benefit from listening to this and understand a little bit more. And I'm sure anyone who wants to know even more could get in touch with yourself via the
and now that
details
restrictions are lifted, we have had people coming back, for face-to-face meetings. So if it was something that people wanted to come and discuss, again, not a problem.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you very, very much for your time today.
My
that
pleasure.
has been a real insight, and we really appreciate it. So very grateful, Viv.
Yes,
not at all.
Thank you, Viv.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.